Maddy will be telling us, will be presenting Kumi, and I'm going to also, yeah, well, we're going to go right to it, right, Maddy? We're going to go right into it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be able to be here to introduce Kumi. Unfortunately, Kumi can't be with us, but she did create a wonderful video for everybody to watch with the help of her daughter, Noni. Kumi and I became friends decades ago, but even so, before that, we knew each other's work, and we were always missing each other. So one day I got a phone call from her, and she said, "Maddy, I'm coming down." She lives in Ithaca still, and let's meet for lunch. And this is when I'm available, and I'm taking you out to lunch. And Kumi is a force of nature, so you don't say no to Kumi. And from that moment on, we became friends. And through the years, even before I had central booking and I was curating exhibitions, I've often included her and thought about her work. And then when I did begin central booking, she was one of the first artists that I put on my list that I had to work with. Kumi was born in Japan, but even though she has spent most of her adult life here in the US, these early roots were really important in her artistic development. She studied architecture at Tokyo University of Fine Art. And for her, that was really important because it was studying architecture through an artistic aesthetic point of view rather than through a more mathematical engineering point of view. And this really came to feed into how she saw artist books and the way she creates very sculptural artist books that often are very architectural. She still does have an adjacent career as an architect, but most of her career for the last 35 years has really been focused on artist books and printmaking, and including her exhibitions and the many collections she's in throughout the world. She did then go more 2D and went for her MFA degree at Cornell University. This was pursued her second love with washi. She really has this great relationship to the Japanese papers that she grew up with and still works with. But and it's interesting too, because she was at Cornell the same time I was an undergrad there, and we never knew each other from that period. So again, the ships in the night where we could have actually have met each other, but Kumi was living there, and so she just would go home when I was working in the printmaking studio, and so I never met her till years later. A similar vision of a sculptural artist books. And so she took these 2D prints that she's made, and a lot of times she will use different binding structures. She finds this is a place where she can be very innovative, and just very simple techniques, but a way to actually put books together where you can slowly unpack them, unfold, move, gently. They're fragile, but they're still very strong, and they combine this movement along with the 2D. So nothing actually stays very 2D for her in her artist books, even when she's just binding what looks like from the beginning as a bunch of pieces of beautiful paper. But they become very quiet but delicate works of art, but very powerful. So without further ado, we're going to go into this video where Kumi will explain and show her own work. Thank you.
Delight is paper, a personal journey. My favorite memory, partly imagined fiction, is that very first thing I saw as a newborn was paper. When I managed to focus my eyes on anything as a baby, in a traditional Japanese room, light from outside often coming through washi paper stretched over shoji screen. Screen often has shadows of tree branches casted. Much later, I learned how to make washi at home. Making, in my case, it was rather crude compared to beautiful paper I saw at art stores, but for me it was very satisfying. Soon I started to use collage materials as inclusion onto and into kozo paper. It was successful to the point I was pleased with my paper. Paper in wind. Delight is paper. I could keep making assemblage paper. Mid-1980s was a period in my life to jump into artist books world. Document storage was one of my earliest pieces created as an artist's book. It was influenced by ancient Japanese royal storehouse building and modern architecture. My fantasy imagination was to create a storehouse in which important documents were stored in scroll form and kept in the valleys of the accordion folds. The reverse side showing how the interval of accordion folds are stabilized with cloth, tape, and some sewing. My printmaking was becoming more important, and this washi paper named Akatosashi with hint of reddish brown and large enough size to accommodate 2 copper plates 20 by 16 inches vertically next to each other satisfied my needs to be large prints, and being long fiber paper offered embossing was not something one could live with. I could use another plate to print over without embossing edges. Furthermore, when 2 plates touching each other created a clean straight line at the center. Because the beveled edges coming together, the meaning of the line could be understood as a space difference or time separation, but it kept suggesting to me a line of fold of a page one sees in an older Japanese books. Thin, lightweight paper often doubled as a page. The opportunity has come to use interior prints as pages to be in my artist's books. The full-size print was used as a page. The print was folded at the line of the center of the print. The text author is Kumiko. Allegorical love story of a fish and an amphora. Miracle could happen in the blue of Mediterranean Sea. The letterpress text is inserted between pages of interior prints. The verses are by Maya Vidal. She lives in Barcelona and her artistic activities are mostly in Europe as a singer and a songwriter. At first, I had a vague idea of a book containing a poem that is not arranged in a normal way, but the verse is partially hidden in the folds of pages. I was so lucky to have Maya's alphabet of my phobias to fit to my imagination of the book so perfectly. Anxiety of the future of the world expressed so vividly and sadly, quote, and I'd start smoking again and it wouldn't even matter, 'cause the world won't be around long enough for me to get cancer. Why family business? My husband was a mycologist. Ian was a hunter of genes of Human Genome Project of government side, and Mario was a spearfishing specialist. My childhood memory at the beach on the Pacific Ocean, a bunch of fishermen putting a rope together, but separately in order to retrieve a net which was thrown into the ocean some hours before, hoping to have today's catch in the net. Fishermen walked backward, pulling the rope that connected each other and eventually to the net. I wanted to emulate the individual fisherman standing alone but connected with my book structure. If the page is a fisherman, that part is easy, but how do I connect them? They should be connected with the different materials from printed pages. Accordion spine is the connector, and finally I chose waxed paper. Translucency was favored. Pages are Hanamura, folded into half. Texts are printed inside. When closed, I wanted to show the color and design of each page. That was easily done with adjusting spine's foldings. Three-dimensional sculpture books are another delightful world. Here is one example. Turning Leaves 2. Its covering is printed akatosashi. The parts of structure can be moved, and each move creates different configuration, reminiscing architecture. There are four small cavities which one could install found objects. Myself being the product of 20th century collages, assemblages, being the everyday language, give life to small objects, now free from original association, but now residing in the box. It's always exciting. The structure of this book is similar to turning leaves. There is a small accordion fold that document hiding in the bottom section of this structure. What's remarkable about this piece is that when I titled it, I was not aware that there were 34 years in between the first document storage I presented and this one. So that it is my journey playing with paper all these years.